Hello. Welcome to Easy English Interviews, the podcast for English language learning. My name is Chris Kent. I'm an associate professor of English as a second language in Japan. And in this podcast, I interview interesting people in easy English so English students can practice their listening comprehension skills. Please enjoy listening to the interviews, and if you would like to check your comprehension, please check the questions in the podcast episode notes, or go to kjkentmsed.substack.com and click on the post for this episode. There you can subscribe to my Substack and receive email notifications whenever a new interview is released. インタビューをお楽しみください。理解度を確認したい場合は、ポッドキャストノートの質問を見るか、URL kjkentmsed.substack.com にアクセスして、このエピソードをクリックしてください。そこで私の Substack をサブスクライブして、新しいインタビューがリリースされるたびに、電子メール通知を受け取ることができます。Okay, let's start the interview. All right, today I'm talking to Ian Davidson, so thank you for taking the time to be here today.
It's my pleasure.
Good. Well, I'll start asking you a few questions and just feel free to, try to answer as best you can, but just have fun and relax. So my first question for you, Ian, is why did you choose to come to Japan to teach English? And can you explain how you came to live here?
Well, a long time ago, I got a teacher's license for elementary school in Canada in 1993. And I had a friend who was 1 year ahead of me at Teachers College. And he went to Japan a year before me. And I saw him in the summer. And I was looking for work in Canada as a teacher at an elementary school in my hometown near Toronto. And he highly recommended that I take just a year, to go to Japan and teach English there. And I really wanted to travel. I'd traveled quite a bit when I was in high school to Europe and a lot in the US, and I was interested in going somewhere farther away. Had no problem with my home country, Canada, but Japan seemed like a really good teaching opportunity and a chance to learn something about another country, which I really didn't know much about. So that would be why I chose. It wasn't so much English as it was an opportunity to travel and to continue being a teacher, because I was interested in teaching any subject when I was that age.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say you were going to be coming just for 1 year, because I remember at first my goal was to come just for 3 years. And that has now turned into a lot more.
Yes.
Okay, my next question is, what did you study in college particularly, and why did you choose that?
Well, I really liked to travel. My parents were born in England and Scotland, and we spent a lot of summers overseas, and so I chose to study geography. It was called geography way back then. So my first degree was in geography with a minor in French, because I also enjoyed studying a second language. So it would have been, I was very interested in world maps and in climate and in cultural geography, other countries. So that's why I chose geography. Not so much the physical side, but the cultural side of it.
Good. Okay, well now you're living in Japan, so can you tell me what are the good and bad parts of your job here in Japan and why?
Well, for about 22 years now, I've been a small business owner. An English school, of course, a conversation school. And when I started it, I suppose I never accounted for people stopping or losing motivation to study English. So for me, as a small business owner, it's always a challenge to keep all of my staff paid, and the business part of it. The teaching part of it, I still enjoy a lot, but we always have to recruit new students. There's a constant turnover. There's lots of options for English schools, as everyone knows here in Japan. So we have a lot of competition. So I would say the biggest challenge is to keep new students and keep existing students coming back to our school.
Okay, my next question is, when you were younger, like a child, what did you want to be when you grew up, and why?
Originally, I wanted to be a veterinarian. We had lots of animals in my house growing up. We had birds and rodents, gerbils and mice and guinea pigs, and then of course fish, cats. We usually had 3 cats. We had 2 dogs. So a lot of time with animals, with pets. So I loved animals. I realized it was going to be, you have to be pretty strong in mathematics and science once you got to high school to get into a good veterinary college in Canada. And I just wasn't so much inclined to study that hard for it. So from around age 14, I started working with kids. I worked at the YMCA camps as a teenager and learned a lot about the outdoors and about survival and first aid and everything. And so it was still from a pretty young age that I decided I wanted to be involved working with students in an outdoor environment or in a classroom environment, but working with young people.
Cool. Now I'd like to talk about Japan here. So what places have you visited in Japan? And maybe what is your favorite place in Japan to visit? I've have a few places I still want to go, but from the south of Japan to the north, in the south I've visited all the way down to Ishigaki. I took a boat from Kagoshima to Okinawa, and then it stopped in Ishigaki, and then it went on to Taiwan. So I took a boat to Taiwan many years ago. I visited all of Kyushu, cycled around every prefecture of Kyushu. Shikoku, not the farthest coast, east coast, west coast, but quite a bit of Shikoku. All of Honshu, I've been to every prefecture in Honshu through skiing and through cycling. Cycled in Hokkaido for 2 weeks. I've been to Wakanai in the north of Hokkaido, to Rishiri and Reibun, the islands that are near Russia. Wow.
So places I want to visit that are left on my list. I haven't been to Yakushima in Kagoshima, and I haven't been to Ogasawara in Tokyo, the 24-hour boat ride down to the island. So that's where I want to go. Some of the outlying islands I'd still like to go to.
Nice, yeah. You've been to a lot of places. Mm-hmm. So what things do you like about Japan or Japanese culture then?
I guess from cycling, from riding to a lot of different places, I like that many interesting places are easily accessible in Japan. I think you can get to a lot of places that feel remote, feel far away from anywhere, but they're really not, because of the road systems in Japan. You can get everywhere, and I've always loved mountains, and the country is covered in mountains, beautiful forests. I like the religious side of things. I like the temples and the shrines up in the mountains, and of course I found even from the beginning how friendly the people were, from riding my bicycle around a lot of places and not really understanding much about things, and how warm and welcoming people were in the country. So I really I haven't spent a lot of time in the big cities in Japan, but I like the inaka, the country part, the rural part of Japan.
Yeah, me too. So now, what is your hobby? What do you like to do now in your free time?
In the winter, I'm a very keen skier. Pretty much every time I have free time in the winter, I ski with my family. I like to spend time helping my children become good skiers. My golden retriever is my good friend, so walking my dog is another big hobby. Reading lots of books, reading as much as I can. In the summer, I love the lake. We have a lake called Nojiriko near here, and I canoe on that lake. I have a kayak. Canadians call what's called a canoe in Japan a kayak. It's just a one-person boat, and I like to explore the rivers around Nagano, so I like kayaking on the rivers. And of course, riding my road bicycle on all the roads and riding my mountain bike on the trails and introducing my kids to that as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So you mentioned your kids and family. So you have family here in Japan. Could you tell me a little bit about your family?
Yes. My wife, Noriko, is from Nagano, and we have 3 children. We have a 14-year-old second grade junior high school student, a boy, and we have a 5th grade elementary school student, Emily, a girl, and John is in grade 2 of elementary school, a boy. And yes, I met my wife. I injured myself skiing, and she was the admitting nurse at the hospital about 18 years ago. when I went to hospital in Japan, she was the first nurse I met there, and luckily, I don't know if injuries are considered lucky, but I call that was a lucky injury.
Or a romantic injury. Okay, so what is your plan for the future then?
I want to continue working on my English school and make it better, make it as good as possible. I have always, as I've mentioned many times, I like the outdoors a lot, so I've always tried to take my students into the outdoors. I have some land up in the mountains here in a place called Miyoko, and I hope to be able to turn that into a camping area for families and children, and to educate them a little bit about how wonderful it is to be outside rather than inside playing a video game. And I just keep working on my school and my passion for the outdoors, and hopefully to be able to send a lot of people overseas as well, as I've done over and over again over the years, sending kids abroad to study, adults as well, taking them, introduce them to other countries and other styles of thinking and other cultures. So that's my long-term goal.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to my final question then, talking about taking students overseas. If you could give any advice to students that are studying English, people listening to this podcast, what would your advice be?
Try to get yourself in a situation where you are immersed in English, where you don't have anybody who's going to explain the meaning of something in Japanese to you, and get comfortable in that feeling for a while. If you are really serious about learning the English language, I feel you must start out not really knowing anything and not feeling uncomfortable not knowing anything. We have a base, of course, so it's not knowing zero, but if you go to Toronto or you go to Adelaide or you go to London, you'll probably find people aren't empathetic. They will speak to you in their accent full speed, and you might not understand much of what they're saying, but that's nothing to be afraid of. I found a lot of smiles and a lot of fun. A lot of friends have been made through getting to understand people, and you will improve very quickly if you try hard to communicate with them through a smile and through not giving up and being persistent and asking pardon or asking people to repeat themselves and not being ashamed of not understanding, because that's the only way that you will really learn to speak English effectively and for your future.
Yeah, it sounds like when I was trying to learn how to speak Japanese, same thing. Yes. I met a lot of nice people who would help me to study and help me to learn Japanese because they wanted to speak with me. And so if you have that feeling of wanting to communicate, that motivation will take you to the next level, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ian, thank you very much for joining me today. And I look forward to talking to you again, maybe in the future. Hopefully we can do this again.
You're very welcome.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Ian Davidson Sensei, and I hope that you can try the comprehension questions when you have free time to check your listening ability in English. And please, if you would like to be notified when the next podcast is up, please join or subscribe at kjkentmsed.substack, which is substack.com. All right. Thank you and see you next time. Bye-bye.